Hi guys, today we're dealing with utilities and we're doing section 11.6, dealing with the telephone. Now when you look over this lesson, you're going to say, what? They actually still have long distance and local phone call service? Yeah, they do. There are people still in the country and still in our state that use this service. For myself, I have to use it because I don't get the best cell phone coverage where I live. And so I need to have a local long distance carrier. So let's take a look and see how this actually works, okay? There are three, like we just talked about, three types of services for phones in our nation, and it's local, long distance, and cell phone service plan. So we're going to take a look at what exactly is your local calling plan. And so there are basically two types. The first type is unlimited calling. And when you deal with unlimited calling, it means you're having a higher fixed rate that you're going to pay, and you're going to have unlimited amounts of time that you can make phone calls. And so this monthly fixed rate will be a higher amount that you'll pay, but you do not have to worry about watching how many minutes you talk on the phone. The second plan is your measured service plan. Your measured service plan has a lower monthly fee that you have to pay, but you will get charged for every minute that you talk on the phone. So if you're not one to talk a lot, then your measured plan might be the plan for you. But being good stewards of your money, you need to decide which plan works best for you. Okay, no matter which plan you choose, you do have a choice of having some additional things added on, like call waiting or caller ID. Those you can add to your monthly plan for a little extra money. Now, with some of your local companies, you're allowed to make short distance phone calls. They're long distance, they're out of your area code, but you can get charged a rate for them. It's not like you're going to dial that number and get no service. So when we talk about local calling, what exactly is it? Normally the phone companies use our area codes. If you're in an area code of like 616 or 231, that is what they tend to refer to as your local calling area. Sometimes those areas are getting so large, they might put a limit to that. And so you've got to check with your plan what is considered local for you. Now, we're going to look into the examples here and get started. The big thing with this chapter, you are going to use the tables throughout this section here, okay? You're going to need to get familiar with the tables and make sure that you pay attention to the black bold print underneath the tables. That little tiny writing has a lot of extra information that you might need to use in the problems. So be comfortable working with these tables and make sure that you're looking for the key parts of what you need for the problem. So we're going to look at example number one. Example number one, it says calculate the local telephone service charges for a measured service plan with call waiting. The customer made 200 minutes of local calls and 40 minutes of local toll calls, and the state sales tax is 5%. Now, there's a couple things we have to pay attention to. First of all is what type of plan we have. This plan will tell me what row in my table that I need to be looking at information for. The other thing is it told me it has call waiting, so I know I'm going to have an extra fee that I need to add on to. One other thing that is important is how many minutes we actually talked, because if we have a measured service plan, I might have to look for extra fees here. The last thing we need to pay attention to is what is local toll calls. Those are basically what they call their short, long distance calls, okay? And so there will be an extra fee for that. And when we're all done, we've got to worry about our sales tax. So let's dive into the problem here. The very first thing we need to do is look at where it says on our chart, measure service local calling. And it tells us it's a plan for $12.95 and it includes 70 minutes in calls. Okay, so obviously in our problem here, we made more than 70 minutes. So we need to find the difference. And so we're going to simply take the 200, subtract the 70 that came in my plan, and I know I have 130 extra minutes. Now, what I'm going to do is find that cost for the extra. And where do I find that cost? Keep going on your chart and to the far right, it says the cost per minute is 10 cents. Okay, so I'm going to take that 130 minutes and multiply it by 10 cents. And I find that my extra phone calls cost me $13. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the cost of my local toll calls, okay, because that was an extra. And so it says I have 40 minutes, and when I find the right row for that, I go to the far right and I find that the cost for those are 12 cents. So I'm going to multiply those together, and my long distance were $4.80. So now we're just going to go ahead and add up all my fees here. And so with my measured service local calls, it was $12.95 for the plan. My additional minutes were 13. My toll calls were $4.80. And then it said, remember, we wanted call waiting. By looking at the chart down at the bottom, it says that the call waiting was $4. Add them together to get my total, and I get $34.75. Now, the last thing I need to worry about is that sales tax, remember? And so I'm going to take and find the sales tax, but the thing is remember at the very bottom of that chart, I said there was things that you had to read carefully. It talks about us having a federal excess tax. And you find out that information at the bottom of the chart, and it says we have to charge 4% for that. So I'm going to take 0.04 times my total cost plus do my sales tax, and I get a fee of $3.13 for those. Now I can go ahead and add that all in, and that gives me the total amount. And then there's one more fee. We have $5, and that's for the FCC, and that's at the bottom of the chart too that we had to find. So now once I get all those extra fees together, I find out that it's $42.88. So be very careful with doing the homework assignment, that you make sure that you pay attention to all those extra fees. And those last 3 fees came from the very bottom of the chart. So make sure that you're looking at that fine print below the tables. Okay. So that was one example that we have to figure out how to find all the extra fees. Let's talk about our long distance calling now, okay? So a long distance is calling beyond that zone of like 616 or 231, okay? You need a long distance carrier for that. And so you either need a long distance carrier, or sometimes people will get a prepaid phone card. And on that prepaid phone card, they've got so many minutes of long distance calling, and they use that. So those are your 2 options that you can have, okay? When you have a long distance carrier, there are multiple different plans that you can have depending on how long you want to talk. There's some fixed rate ones, or just like with local, you had per minute rates, you have that option too. So you need to shop around and see what is best for you, okay? Now, long distance charges include what is called a federal and state universal service fee. And that's normally about $2. And every long distance plan, you need to have that $2. And what this does is it's a fee that the government puts on that helps regulate what the cost is so that they can keep local phone calls affordable. And so every long distance carrier has to have this fee attached. Okay, so let's take a look at an example here. It says a customer with the American Phone Company cost per minute plan used 160 minutes for long distance phone calling. How much did this customer pay for long distance service? Okay, we're going on to another chart that we have to use now, and this is the one that we use for our long distance carrier. Okay, that's on page 424. And just like with the local, it has a lot of fine print below the table. So make sure you're paying attention to know what you need to add on for fees and stuff. So looking at our example here, it says we're a cost per minute plan. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we're using the correct column for that. It says we have 160 minutes. And so let's go ahead looking at our table, and what do we need to do? With this minute, cost per minute, it means that for every minute that we use, we're paying a certain fee. And with this plan, looking at the table, I find out that every minute costs me 7 cents. So I'm going to take 7 cents and multiply it by 160 to find my cost. So it was $11.20. Now, once I get that, the plan has a basic fee, a low fee of $11.20. Okay. I also have an extra additional fee of $3.95 that I have to add on to that. Sorry, that's my basic fee, and then this is the cost for the minute. Sorry, to get the total cost of $15.15. Now, here's my excess fee that we have to do, okay? And looking at the bottom of the chart, the excess fee, they tell me, is 4 cents. And so I multiply the, it's 4%. 4% times my cost, and I find that it's 61 cents that I need to add to it. Now add that along with my universal fee of $2. Add these totals. So there is my excess tax. There is the basic amount for my plan. Add them together, and so my long distance plan is $17.76. Now, think about it. If you don't have a cell phone and you need to use local phone, you're going to have a local phone fee plus a long distance fee. And so once you start adding up the cost, that's why people started thinking about, well, maybe I need to do a cell phone plan, see if I have good enough coverage, because if they already had a cell phone for being out on the roads, plus add local and long distance, it gets pretty costly. So this is when cell phones became a big thing, and more homes are switching over to just cell phone plans. Now, you guys are all familiar with cell phone plans. Pay attention that you are getting the right plan for you, because some cell phone carriers have a certain area that they'll let you call from that they call your home base, and they won't charge you for fees, for phone calls made in that area, and you won't get charged with roaming fees. Other plans, if you make a long distance phone call from that home base area, you wouldn't get charged for that. So be careful. You know what type of phone calls you make. You know whether you're making a lot of phone calls out of the country or whether you're local. Find the plan that is best for you, but pay attention to it. One thing you need to know, that all cell phone plans, you must pay the state sales tax for. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's look at two different plans, okay? So our problem here says we're comparing two plans. What one would be the best? So we're going to use the cost per minute of a regional phone plan for both companies. Table 11.7 is what we're going to be using for this, okay? Assume the customer uses 90% of the allotted time that he's given in his plan. Okay, so that's the information they give. We're going to look on page 425, the table, to help us with this information. So the very first thing is step 1 and 2. Basically, step 1 deals with one phone company. And so what we're looking for is really what the cost is. It tells us that we're going to use 90% of the allotted amount of time in our plan. And so looking at the New Frontier on the table in 425, we see New Frontier gives us 150 minutes in our plan. So 90% of those 150 minutes is 135. Okay, and so that 135 minutes is important because I need to use that in my cost per minute. Now, looking at the plan, I noticed that my plan with New Frontier is $30. So I'm spending $30 for 135 minutes, okay? And once I figure that out and divide it out, I find that every minute that I talk, it's about 22.2 cents per minute, okay? So that's for the company New Frontier. Step 2 now deals with how much it is for the other company, which is Telecel. Okay, same thing. It told me in my problem that I'm using 90% of the allotted time. Well, with Telecel, they give me 300 for my plan. And so I'm going to take 90% of that 300, and I find out that I'm using 270 minutes. So I'm going to take the cost of $30 divided by the 270, and everybody right off the bat should know that our second company here, Telecel, is the much better deal because it's only costing us 11.1 cents per minute to make a phone call. Okay, so when we're finding out which company is best, we got to make sure that we're breaking it down to the correct amount of minutes, and we'll take the total plan divided by the total minutes used. Okay, so these are the different problems that we're working with. There's one more example that on page 426 that I want you to check out. It is quite a lengthy thing. They are comparing different fees, and read through that section, take a look at it, and you'll use that information to help you in your homework assignment. But I want to get right into some of the homework, the book problems that you'll do for your assignment. And the first one I want to go ahead and work with you is problem number 1. Problem number 1 on page 427 says, use the table 11.5 to calculate the monthly local service phone bill. Include the state tax of 6%. So what we're going to need to do is look at what is my different rate in my plan here. So problem 1 says find the flat, we're using a flat rate unlimited. So when I look at the table there at 11.5, I need to make sure that I'm using the correct row. And when I do that, I find out the plan is going to cost me $15.50. That's my flat fee for that, okay? Now, it also said in my homework that we wanted call waiting. So looking at the bottom of the table, I find out it's $4. And also they want caller ID, which is $7. Okay, so that deals with all my standard fees. Now let's actually look at what are my phone calls costing me. Okay, so remember with this plan, I am not having to worry about all my extra minutes and that because it's a flat fee. The only thing I need to worry about with this is the toll calls, and the toll calls are the long distance local calls, okay? And so what I'm going to do is take that 42 minutes and I'm going to multiply it by 0.12, so it's 12 cents for every minute. And I find those toll calls are going to cost me $5.04. I'm going to go ahead, add up all my fees. So here's the plan, here's the call waiting, here's the caller ID, here is my total charges, okay, and I get $31.54. Okay, so with that, we need to go ahead, and the last thing we need to do is we need to include the sales tax rate for that. Now, to find the sales tax rate, I've got to add some extra different things to this, okay? And so to do that, I've got to find the state tax. So I'm going to take that $31.54 and I'm going to multiply it by my sales tax. And remember, it says the tax is 6%. Now I'm going to multiply it by 1.06, and that 1.06 is going to take that sales tax and add it on for me. Okay? Now, once I do that, I end up having to get also my federal tax. And that federal tax, it tells me, is 4%. Okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and you know what? To make it easier, let's just go ahead and find what my separate things are without adding the 1. Let's go ahead and do that, and I'll find that my state tax is $1.89. Okay? Then I'm going to find my federal tax, which is the 0.04 times the 31.54. And once I multiply that out, I end up with $1.26. Okay. Now remember, there was that one thing, the FCC, that we had fees for too, that we had to add together. And those fees was a standard $5. Now I'm going to take that $31 that I have here, add that to my $1.89, add $1.26 to that, and my $5. And this will give me my grand total of $39.69. Okay, so once we got to this part, we could have said, oh yeah, I'm done. But we forgot. We have all of these extra little charges. These charges are what I find below my chart. And this one was up in my instructions. So make sure that you get all these extra little fees added on top. Okay. Number 7 we're going to take a look at. In number 7, the instructions say use table 11.6 to calculate the monthly long distance phone bills with the company listed. And so we're looking at American cost per minute plan for 104. We're dealing with long distance, so we're looking at table 11.6, and just like we did up here, we're going to have to find the individual costs for all these different things. So the very first thing I need to do is find out, is there a basic fee for my plan? Do I have any extra minutes that I have to use or what do I need to do? And so looking at problem 7, remember it said cost per minute. So that means I'm going to get charged for every minute that I talk. And looking at my plan, it's 7 cents per minute. So I'm taking that 7 cents, multiplying by 104 minutes, which it tells me in my problem. And then there was the flat basic fee of $3.95. So my plan cost me $11.23. Now, I got all these extra fees that I have to add to it. So the first one is my federal tax, which is 4% of my cost, $11.23. And I find out that cost me 45 cents. I also have that universal fund that we're required to pay, which is $2. Go ahead and add these totals up, and I get the total cost to be $13.68. Okay, now for the rest of your problems, you need to be very careful looking at what they're asking, okay? We're going to do problem 13 here, which now gets us into the phone, cell phone plan. In the cell phone plan, there's a lot of extra little things that they can ask for. Be very careful with looking at that chart. But problem 13 says we're looking at New Frontier, the 2-state plan with 120 regular minutes, 8 of which are roaming. Okay, so we're going to take a look here, and looking at the table, I find out that a 2-state basic fee cost me $25. Okay, remember it told me I had 8 minutes of roaming charges. So I'm going to take, it's 60 cents for every minute of roaming that I have. So I take my 8 minutes times the 60 cents. And then my plan says I get, for this $25, I get 100 minutes of basic talk time. Okay, but looking at my problem, I talked 120 minutes. So I'm going to take 120 and subtract that 100, and that tells me I had 20 minutes extra. So I'm going to take that 20 and multiply it by 0.35, which is 35 cents, and add them all together, and I find out that it's $36.80. Now remember, we talked about the extra fees. So I have federal tax with this plan that I have to worry about. Federal tax, remember, is 4%. So I'm going to take 4% times my cost, and I find I get an extra fee of $1.47. I also have the state sales tax that is required, which is 5% times my plan cost, which was $36.80, and I find that my sales tax is $1.84. Now I also have the excess fee, okay, and that is $2. Now all of this stuff was below the table, so you had to make sure that you were reading that table carefully. Now I can go ahead and add up all those totals, and I find that my final total for the cell phone bill was $42.11. Okay. Problems 13 through 18 you'll be working on, and I can't stress it enough. Make sure you're paying attention to the little writing underneath the table to help you out there. If you have any questions, go ahead and text or email me. Have a good day. Bye.